Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to our coffee times to talk about horror. And today I finally bring you my wrap up for the month of June, which was a very interesting and mixed TBR that I had. I unfortunately only managed to read 8 books. June was rough and July is kind of becoming the same thing. I'm struggling to find time to read as much as I would like to. So let's see how much I managed to read in July as well. But nevertheless, I did read a couple of things that I really enjoyed, other ones that didn't quite hit the spot, and I'm here today to let you know what I thought of those 8 books.
It's coffee time!
I mean, 8 books in 1 month, it's good, and even though one was a novella and there were a couple of short ones, I'm still taking it as a win, especially when you're busy in life, so I'm taking it as a win. 8 books is a lot. If you're new here, hi, welcome. We like to rate our books with coffee mugs, and I also start with the lowest rating, so we always end up with the highest one on a positive note. Let's start with I Feed Her to the Beast and the Beast is Me by Jamieson Shee, and this is YA horror. Now, obviously this is not a really low rating, and this is my lowest rated book of the month, so it was still a quite strong month. However, I had kind of high expectations for this book for some reason. I think it was because the setting in Paris and the ballet school, and I don't know, I kind of was hoping for a little bit more horror in this book, and it started quite strong, but it's one of those books that starts very strong and then it just loses you at some point, and it's really hard to reel you back in. I feel like I have had a lot of books this year like this, like they start very strong for me and then they start to lose fuel, and I still finish them, but they don't satisfy me as much as I hoped, you know, when I picked them for my TBR. I think part of why I didn't enjoy it as much as I hoped was that in my head I thought this was going to be a queer horror book, and it ended up being more of a dark academia, low on the horror side kind of book, and I think that's part of why I was a little bit disappointed with the whole story. But I really did enjoy, you know, the cutthroat world of ballet in Paris and seeing how the girls interacted with each other, the classes, how tough it is, and I did enjoy our main character as well and how resilient she was. Now granted, I don't know anything about ballet, not much really, to be honest, but I think if you like ballet, you might like this book a lot because there is a lot of explanations about movements in the school. So there's a lot of talk about ballet that I thought was very interesting for me as a reader, but obviously I don't have all the knowledge also to know if everything was really accurate. Our main character is determined to prove that just because she's black and she's from a lower class doesn't mean that she cannot be like the main character ballerina on one of their plays, and she is really pushing to get that position. I love her determination and how she really wanted to achieve her goals and how she didn't care what other people thought about her. And the only problem is that she's so desperate to get there quickly that she ends up kind of cutting a deal with something evil. She's tired to see how the other girls get more opportunities, how she's treated differently, and one day one of the ballerinas invites her to the Paris catacombs, and that's where she makes a deal that is going to change her life forever. The book did start really strong and I was on board and I was ready and I really liked our main character, but then the book started to drag for me and I started to get bored, and you know, when you get to the ending and something happens and you're finally getting maybe what you had hoped for the rest of the book, the ending cannot save it anymore, because even if it's a nice ending, you're like, well, you know, I would have liked more of that for the other 80% of the book, thank you very much. So I think that was maybe just a me problem, I don't know, maybe it was just not the book for me, so I will not be picking up the sequel, but I could see, you know, how this could be a book for others. There is also a romantic subplot here that I didn't need personally, so unfortunately was not the best book I've read, but you know, at least I'm glad that I tried it because it's been on my list since it came out, so it's one of those books that I just needed to try. But yeah, unfortunately not one of my favorites. Then I read The Doll's House by Lisa Unger, and this is a horror short story, so I read this one in one go. I thought it was great, but it's very short and sweet. And I think this is going to be perfect for people that like supernatural tales. The story basically follows a mother and a daughter that are starting over their lives after losing the husband slash father, and they are, you know, getting a new beginning in a new home with a new guy, but things don't go quite as planned. Jules is a widow and she is taking a second chance in life. She met this guy that seems to be perfect on paper, and she decides she's going to move to his mansion with her daughter, and they're going to start over there. Her daughter can go to school and they're just going to be a happy family. Scout is not happy about this. She doesn't like this guy. She's still mourning the loss of her father. She's still kind of hanging on to her father's belongings, and she doesn't like that they leave everything behind in their old apartment and they move now to this family mansion of this guy that she doesn't like. So obviously it's not just that she's a teenager. I think she has valid reasons for hating it there. Especially when she starts to discover that this house is keeping secrets. The story is told from both Jules and Scout's perspective. You follow Scout as she starts the new school. She's like the new girl, so she's trying to make friends and talk to people about, you know, the town and everything, and just try to make the best out of it, I guess. But the moment she gets home, she just hates it there. And then you follow Jules as she is hoping for Scout to accept the situation, and she is a little bit nervous because of course she really loves her daughter and wants her to adapt, but things start to happen in the house, weird things, and basically now both girls might be in danger. For being a short story, I think the town, the characters, the atmosphere, everything was so well developed, and you really can fly through this book in one sitting. It's like watching a TV episode, you know, those TV shows that are episodic, like you don't have to watch the whole season to understand what's going on. So you're just watching like a Goosebump, but for adults, like episode on a supernatural tale. So that's kind of what it feels like, and I personally really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the supernatural aspects of the book, and I definitely will be picking up more things by the author. This has been kind of my introduction to her, but I had her name in my list of authors that I wanted to try because I heard many people reading her books, so definitely going to try more by the author. If you have any recommendations of maybe one of your favorites by her, let me know below. Then I finally read Prom Queen, the Fear Street book by Earl Stein, and I read this because I really wanted to watch the movie, but I was holding off because I had ordered the book and I wanted to make sure that I read the book first. I don't know, it's just I just needed to do it that way. So I want to do still a video comparing the movie and the book because I took notes when I was reading and I took notes when I was watching the movie, and I do have those notes, so I'm putting everything together and hopefully it's gonna be out soon. So I hope you guys are still interested, and if you have watched the movie but not read the book, now you have time to watch the movie, or the other way around, if you've read the book but have not seen the movie yet, you still have the time to do it before I upload my video because it is going to contain spoilers because I'm going to be comparing the two of them. So okay, let's talk about the book, and to be fair, I expected this book to be worse. That is my faith on the Fear Street books. Like normally they're just silly, cheesy, there's always like some toxic relationships and stuff, and this one being about prom queens, I kind of thought it was going to be too silly, but in the end I actually really enjoyed this one. So the school is about to announce the candidates for this year's prom queen, and we see us, the girls, are all excited to see who's going to be nominated to be the queen, and they're planning the party, and it's going to take place in a house, like I think it's a manor in the middle of the Fear Street woods. Like, where would you want to do it there anyway? And so they get the list, and all the candidates are really excited. They know each other and they pretend to be besties, and I love the shade. Like, you can see this group of girls hate each other, but they're still trying to be like super friendly and all of that, and it just felt real, sadly. It just felt like a possible realistic scenario, which is sad, like I say, but I think that's why I really enjoyed it, because they were very cutthroat with each other, and I was like, I'm kind of living for this. Unfortunately, our girls are not even able to enjoy the preparations, the party, or anything, because it seems that somebody is killing the candidates for prom queen one by one. And of course, our mission is finding out who is the person behind the kills, who is targeting these girls. And honestly, I'm really happy that I read the book before I watched the movie, because like I said, this is one of the Fear Street books that I have enjoyed the most for some reason, which I would not have imagined a book about prom queens would have been one of my faves. It's basically a story of mean girls that are forced to work together to find out who's behind the kills before more of them perish. I really enjoyed the mystery in this one, and like I said, I really enjoyed the characters and how these girls were being so mean to each other. And even though they end up kind of being more friends towards the end because they have no choice, they have to try to work together and figure out who's killing them, and that kind of bonds you for life, I guess, when you're trying to find a common enemy. There are plenty of possible suspects in the book, which makes it the more fun, because when there's a lot of suspects, you're like, oh, it could be this person, it could be that person, it could be that person. So it opens up more like the bag of possible suspects, and I love it more than we just have one or two and it's mostly clear who it is. So I enjoyed the mystery of this one quite a lot. It is also a very quick read. It was fast-paced and I really enjoyed it. So if you have not read it yet and you have it, or you've always been curious about it, especially since the movie was announced, I do recommend you to read the book first. And now it's time to talk about a book that I expect every year, and every year I want to read, and every year I go with my best intentions, but needless to say, the last couple of years I've been a little bit underwhelmed by these authors' books, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I am loving them and thinking they are 5 out of 5. So let's keep it honest in the channel, as I've always have, and let's talk about Never Flinch by Stephen King. And I'm somebody that you guys have heard me saying this 1,000 times. I love Stephen King because I grew up reading his books. I got introduced to horror books reading his books, so it's always going to be important for me because of that. And I think the last couple years his books have been not hitting quite the mark for me. I still enjoy them for several reasons. I love his characters, I enjoy his writing, there's many things that I enjoy about his books, but they're not as good as other of his works, and I think it's kind of normal. He has so many books that I think it's normal that some of them are gonna be better than others, also especially depending on the type of reader, and taking into consideration that the last couple of years his books have been more thrillers. We even got a fantasy, so they are very, very different from what I started reading, right? Because I started with like Pet Sematary and The Shining and all of those things, and they're very different from his current works. Never Flinch follows Holly Gibney, and I do recommend people that want to get into this book to read the other books that come before, because there's a lot of references and things that you're going to miss if you don't, and there's a lot of things about Holly that you're not going to know if you don't read the other three. I think this is book 4 in her story. So this one follows Holly, and the police is trying to find a killer that has threatened to kill 14 people, 13 of which are innocent and 1 is guilty. They don't know exactly who's the guilty, they don't know what this killer is talking about exactly, but they know the people are about to die. So when the first body is discovered, then the second one, they're like, Holly, we might need your help here because we're a little bit lost. We don't know where to start looking for this person. But apart from that case, Holly is also kind of recruited to help another person. Women's rights activist Kate is currently on a tour, and she's kind of like giving speeches at hotels and stuff like that, and she has realized that she has a stalker. And on top of that, she thinks that the stalker wants to harm her physically, so she kind of hires Holly to go on tour with her and help her to figure out who's the stalker, if they're following her around, and to try to avoid obviously the stalker from killing her. The thing is, this book had a lot of characters and subplots, and the chapters for each character, like the bits, changed all the time, back and forth, and it was a little bit complicated at the beginning to really get immersed into everybody's stories. Now, I am familiar with Stephen King having a lot of characters in his books. It's something that he does sometimes, but I've never struggled as much as I have with this one, and I don't know exactly what's the reason. Maybe the little chapters on every character were a little bit too short. maybe I was just not connecting with the characters quick enough, I don't know, but it was a very slow start for me. This was a very slow burner for me. And it took me a while to get to the end. I still got to enjoy Holly Gibney. It's a character that I do enjoy, and you get to see her trying to help everybody to catch, all the killers. And I love when you have a serial killer on the loose, or somebody, that has sent secret messages to the police warning them of something they're gonna do. So I love all of that part of the mystery. And also I kind of sympathize with the killer in this story because they are just looking for justice. Something was done wrong and the person just wants justice, a little bit of revenge. So sometimes you can empathize with that because sometimes the justice system doesn't work as well as we would expect it to, and a lot of people tend to take matters in their own hands. So there's a little bit of political talk in this book, which is my next thing that I wanted to mention. I am used to, at this point, to hear a lot about politics in Stephen King's books, but I think that in the recent years the politics have been overpowering a little bit the stories. Now, he's always had his own views in his books one way or another, more hidden or not, but I feel like in the last years it's been a little bit too much on my face. And I have mentioned this when I talked about his other book, Holy. He's talked about the pandemic and the vaccines and everything is fine, but he's talking so much about it, and it's still in this book, and I feel like he's trying to push his beliefs down my throat. I don't think he's doing it in a way that it's just like organic for the story and the characters. I think he's just pushing his beliefs over and over again to me, and I am getting tired of that part. So every time I would see it, my eyes would roll. And this might not bother too many people, I don't know, but it bothers me. Now, overall, did I enjoy this book? Yes. Was I disappointed? Yes. So, not one of my favorites by Stephen King, but, I will keep buying his books and reading them because, yeah, I'm a sucker for Stephen King, and I keep doing it. I think maybe I'm just unconsciously trying to find the next perfect Stephen King book. Will it still come now that he's more focused on politics and thrillers? I don't know. I don't know, but we shall see. And going from adult thriller, we now move to a spooky middle grade. We have this one here, Shadow Hall Academy, The Whispering Halls by Phil Hikes, which is the first book in the series, which is the Shadow Hall Academy series. And this one was such a treat. This was a quick read. It was entertaining, and this is going to be perfect for people that are looking for a spooky middle grade for Halloween. We follow Lillian in this book, and it is her first year at Shadow Hall Academy, and she's excited but also a little bit scared because this is a really big place with a lot of history, and obviously she's the new one, so she has to make friends. It is a creepy old place. It's very cold, very big. She's overwhelmed, but she makes friends very quickly, and she hopes that that's gonna help her to adapt quicker. And they are all gathering in the rooms, all the girls, and one night when they are in the room they start to hear something that seems to come from inside of the walls. On top of that, there are rumors and tales about girls that went missing in the school before, and she starts to try to figure out what's going on in this school because she is sure that something's amiss. And because she's very nosy and she needs to know, she ends up discovering some things that make her worried that she and her friends might be in actual danger. And apart from the tapping on the walls, one of the girls seems to hear somebody calling her name, and things start to get really spooky after that. Obviously, Lillian and the friends' mission here is to figure out what are these noises that are coming from the wall? What are these voices? What's with the school history? Why did girls go missing? This was a great creepy tale with a lot of atmosphere, perfect for one of those rainy days. As soon as we hit September, October, this is going to be a great read. It is a ghost story set in a kind of like a dark academia setting, and I thought it was very creepy for being a middle grade as well. There were several plot twists here. I think the story, the characters, everything was really well crafted. I mean, I really enjoyed the Evelyn Jones books, so I was sure that I was going to enjoy this one because it's the same author, obviously, and I think he does fantastic middle grade. It's been one of my favorite middle grade authors that I have found, because the Evelyn Jones books is 3 books that I've really enjoyed, and this series also promises to be great. I'm definitely going to continue with the series and pick up book 2. We have 2 more books to go, so let's go ahead and go back to adult mystery thriller. We have With a Vengeance by Riley Sager, and I know people have been hating on this book which, you know, I'm not surprised. Riley Sager is one of those authors that it's always a hit or miss for a lot of people, so I'm kind of used to it by now, you know. And honestly, with this one I disagree. But simply because I had a lot of fun with it, I don't know. And I think part of it is because something that I saw somebody mention the other day on Book Talk, it's that sometimes, you know, you are the type of reader that don't see all of the plot twists coming, and that's me. Hi. I don't always see things coming when I'm reading. When I'm watching a movie, I can predict things so quickly. When I'm reading a book, I can't. For some reason, my brain works differently depending on the media. And when I'm reading a book, I'm not paying attention so much at trying to find the clues. I think when it's visual, like really on the screen in a movie, I'm focusing a lot more on what's going on around it. Also, there's a lot of silent moments in movies, right? But when you're reading, there's always words in your head. So I think that's part of why my brain doesn't really try to find clues all the time in books and try to put, you know, 2 and 2 together. So because I don't see a lot of the plot twists coming and a lot of the reveals, I think I get to enjoy certain books more than maybe other readers that see things coming from miles away. And also it helps me because if I notice something that's coming, it's probably very easy to spot. Because if I can spot it, anybody can. Anyway, I digress. This book is a locked murder mystery in a moving train. It's kind of like Agatha Christie, you know, Murder on the Orient Express. That's kind of the vibes that it gave me, and I think that's why I really enjoyed it. In 1942, 6 people kind of ruined Anna's family, and since then she's been plotting a way for revenge. And she wants vengeance from them. So 12 years later, she invites them to a train ride. Obviously, they are invited under false pretenses, and by the time they realize why they're there, it's gonna be too late. The train is moving. They are the only ones in the train because Anna has made sure they are the only ones in the train. And her plan originally is, okay, I'm gonna lock them all in this train. It's a train that is not gonna make any stop until we get to Chicago. And once we get there, she has already alerted the FBI, the police, to come and get them because she wants justice for what these people allegedly did to her family. Unfortunately, Anna's plan is not gonna really work out because one day, one of the guests is murdered. And Anna is like, what? Like, it wasn't me. I want justice. I want the police. I want the FBI. I want them to be arrested and pay for what they did. I don't want to kill them. You know, that would be too merciful. So who inside of this train is trying to kill them? I thought this was fun. It was really fast paced. The chapters are also divided in hours and you get to see how the hours become less and less. It's the hours they have left to reach their destination, which, you know, helps with the tension. You're like, oh my god, they have 8 hours left. They have 6 hours left. And are they gonna catch the killer, you know? So it was fun. And there's also a limited amount of people in the train. So you know the killer has to be one of these suspects, was potential suspects, and you start to wonder who has the motives for it. And I don't know, you learn more about what happened back in the day. I had a blast. So I don't know why other people hated it so much, but I really enjoyed it. I read this book in 2 days because I could not put it down. I was really engaged. It was fast-paced. I was having fun. So for me, it has been one of the most entertaining Riley Sager books. Is it my favorite? Maybe not. I think Lock Every Door is still gonna be my favorite. I don't know if there's anything that's gonna come to top it. But I would recommend it. But obviously if you read a lot of other Riley Sager books and you don't like his books, maybe skip it. I don't know. If you like Agatha Christie, maybe give it a shot. But for me, it worked. And last but not least, I read Rest Up by Nat Cassidy, and this is a novella that I wanted to read because I really enjoyed his previous books, Mary and Nestlings, and I had heard that this novella was kind of gross, and it was, so I'm really happy that I read it. I was impressed to see how much disgusting stuff Nat Cassidy could put and compile in a short novella. And I was grossed out. I gotta say, some parts I was struggling. I was like, do I want to read about this? Do I not? Abe is a young musician, and he finds himself one day stopping with his van at a rest stop, and he decides to use the bathroom. And unfortunately, when he tries to get out of the bathroom again to leave, the door's locked. He doesn't know who locked it, but it is locked from the outside, so there's no way for him to open it. And he doesn't know what's going on in the shop, in the rest stop. He just hears things. He starts to get paranoid. He doesn't know how to get out of there. He's looking for ways out. And while he's looking for ways out, there are some creatures, bugs, things that start to come into the bathroom where he is. And it gets very gross. Now that's basically all that I can tell you. That's the introduction to the novella, because if I tell you more, I'm going to spoil things for you, and I would like for you to enjoy this gross experience for yourself. The story is fast-paced, is tense, is terrifying. There is a lot of gore and disgusting stuff happening. It was horror. It was the stuff of nightmares, and I really enjoyed it. But this is definitely not a novella for people that want to get introduced to horror, or maybe want to get introduced to the author. I would still recommend Mary probably as an introduction to the author. It's probably the one that is a little bit more approachable, even though his books are all quite weird and they are not your standard story, so there's always something weird that's gonna happen in the second half of his books. This was one of those novellas that when you're reading it, you just want to go take a shower and scrub yourself until you're really clean because you feel disgusted. So yeah, I enjoyed it, so I would really recommend it to you guys. And now that I have read all of those Nat Cassidy things, the only thing that I have left to read now is When the Wolf Comes Home, which you guys know is a book that I plan to read very soon, and I will be done with his published work so far. I have heard it's really good, so I'm really excited and I kind of want to pick it up, but I think I'm gonna wait until September to read it, because August, I don't know if that's the kind of vibe book that I'm going for, but it is on my 2025 TBR. Alright you guys, so this was everything that I managed to read during the month of June. I really struggled to finish some things on time, so July has been quite slow at the moment. I think I've only finished so far 2 or 3 books, so let's see how many do I finish before the end of the month. It might be a short wrap up next month, but life happens. So at least I think it's important that when you don't have so much time, that you hopefully get to read some things that you do enjoy, even if it's little things. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this wrap up. Let me know down below if you've read these books, what you thought of them, and also let me know what is the best book you have read in the month of June. Let's talk about it in the comments. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!